independently, we're tracking the events in the Antarctic and also in the Arctic. You know, the neat thing about a jigsaw puzzle is somebody who's been focused on a specific part of the puzzle sometimes needs an outside set of eyes. And I want to share this. The reason this is important for Christians is because the greatest deception in the history of the world, the one that Jesus spoke about, that basically said if he didn't shorten the days, that even the elect would be deceived. So that's what's going on in all avenues of the world, both natural and supernatural. Right now we're at a point of convergence. That convergence is that everything that's been, if you will, spooky, bumpy in the night and stuff is coming into our realm. And literally that which was kept, I believe, out of our immediate visual and audio sights and our ability to perceive it is now gone. So in essence, God has given mankind the ability by free will to choose if they're going to follow him or they're going to follow the evil one. And so I'm going to bring on Greg and let him speak. Now, here's the thing, ladies and gentlemen. This is critical to your understanding because, number one, as Christians, you're going to have to be able to give an answer. You're going to have to be able to rise above this stuff in faith. And so, again, Doug, share this. Both Greg and I are walking circumspectly. We've prayed, asked the Lord not to let us go where we shouldn't go. And this may sound a little bit ominous and melodramatic, but every time, you do a show like this, you go, God, help me to share what needs to be shared, but not to go beyond that which you want us to go beyond. So I know this. I can speak for Greg and I can speak for myself. We both are yielded to that and yielded literally to the Spirit of the living God, and we want to share with you what's going on because all over, Doug, you probably know this, the web bots cliff high is getting so many predictive linguistics that, the major religions of the world are going to undergo a tremendous shaking. The lies that many people have believed, and so what is going to happen is the great deception is simply going to be this, and this is the simplified version, that there is no God, Jesus is not real, and that the aliens created us and they're coming back to save us. All the new ancient technology, all the new understanding of true history will launch us into the golden age of man, and first of all, men will become gods living forever in perpetual pleasure and perversion. That's a nutshell. I can back up everything I say in that statement, but I want to bring Greg on, and Greg, thank you for coming on tonight.
Well, Steve, I, as always, cannot begin to thank you for being, number one, my Christian brother, one of the closest I have in the entire world, if not the closest. And Doug and Joe, I tell you, it's been far too long that I was far too ill for a long time and just couldn't do it. But I tell you, I'm looking forward with great anticipation for what the Lord is going to do tonight for hundreds of thousands, perhaps a few million listeners around the globe that are having trouble, frankly, digesting, accepting, and moving forward with a plan because it is so overwhelming at times. And fellas, I'll tell you, it's hard enough for me when I've been back on the radio now for several months, but not very long and not nearly as positive programming as it is with the Hagman Report. And so I just want you to know that when I am contemplating a show like tonight, there's two things that work for me. Having been a state trooper and federal investigator and so forth, it's hard for me to say, oh, okay, yeah, Steve Quayle, yeah, I know Steve. And, well, what do you think of his information and his books and his DVDs and so forth? And I say, well, what are you getting at? Well, do you believe him or not? And I step back figuratively and literally at times, and I say, of course I do. He's my Christian brother. He's doing a job that many of you cannot do, will not do. And because of that, it's left to to a literal handful of people that are willing to step out on the plank and move towards the end of the ship. So when that happens, you get revealed, that's bad sensing, I'm sorry, it's revealed to you that, Steve wrote some good books, and the best book, I think, by far, is his latest about the Nazi, concubines under the ice, about the giants, and you know, many of you, that he's been writing about that for years. And I will tell you that, unbeknownst to Steve now, and unbeknownst to him at any point, I have checked because I wanted to be totally in compliance with what Jesus would have me say and do behind. Now you understand, please, let me understanding of why this is so critically important. I'm not the only one tonight listening that is a police officer, sheriff's deputy, or other law enforcement person. And the reason that's critical is because the folks that are listening that fit into those categories, we were trained. I believe I was raised from 4th grade. The Secret Service went back to the 4th grade and checked with my 4th grade teacher, who's now gone. And they said, was this guy a nutcase, or was he? No, he was a good kid. Did he do anything outstanding? Yeah. And I know how this sounds, so please forgive me. But she was saying this. I saw her about a year later, and she was telling me about this. And she said the one thing I told him was that if there's ever trouble at school, that Greg had to know what happened, who it happened to, what they said, what they didn't say, and on and on. And so I was in that mold from 4th grade on. Now, why is that important? Well, because the information that you're going to hear tonight, and many of you have read about and watched the DVDs that Steve has put out, and there's more coming, you must grasp what that means to all of us. I can't tell you the number of people that are involved in this at all levels, military and police at high levels, and with some shipboard personnel. It's all coming together to serve one purpose, and that's to make real and understandable the situation that we find ourselves in. If you've ever read the Bible, then you understand. We are approaching very quickly what I believe is, in fact, the biblical end-time scenario. In fact, we may be already on the first step. And if that's the case, which I believe it is, then we have no choice. Gentlemen, do you want to defend your families? Do you want to be there for your children, even though they're 25 or 30 years old? And they're afraid to admit that they didn't listen when you were trying to tell them about this? Is it really a tough one when they come home on a weekend with their families and they pull you aside and they say, Dad, is it going to get that bad? Now, what are you going to tell them? I've already been in that position with my son, who was a police officer, and others of the law enforcement family. And ladies and gentlemen out there that are listening tonight, thank you for tuning in. I told you you wouldn't be disappointed. You won't be. Not that we're trying to make some kind of weird theater presentation, but we're certainly going to tell you what we know, what we believe is the truth, and what you can do to get yourselves ready. Now, I'm chopping this up into, what could you say, segments, I guess. As you can tell, my voice is much better, those of you that have been listening. But I've still got just a little ways to go. My wife was so pleased last night. I was able to sing Amazing Grace with her for the first time in about 14 months. My voice was damaged when I had surgery, when they put the tubes down my throat. They messed up one of my vocal cords. So my voice bounces in and out, and it's kind of silly, but that's what I'm facing.